Polydeck co-founder Manfred Freissle, like a number of innovators, approaches his work rather simply. For Freissle, innovation is achieved behind the adage of learning by doing. Polydeck Screen Corporation employees adopted this maxim from Freissle many years ago, utilizing it as a driving force in all things. For Freissle himself, the concept of learning by doing put him on a path decades ago to set a global standard for screen media and make an everlasting impact on the crushed stone, sand, and gravel industry. Still, the road to the top starts from the bottom, and Freissle embarked on his life's journey despite some trying circumstances in his early years. Freissle departed a broken Germany after World War II when he was just 19. Eventually, he found himself in South Africa in pursuit of greater opportunities. With him, Freissle brought a resume that included an apprenticeship in electrical engineering. The transition to a foreign country was not easy. Freissle struggled with his English. Fortunately, a fellow German, Helmut Rosenbusch, helped him to communicate. A friendship developed between the two, who later forged a bond in business from a rather unlikely place. Rosenbusch, a woven wire master weaver who worked to develop cloth screen media, introduced Freissle to his work. Together, the two established ScreenX, their own woven wire screen media company, from the inside of a garage. The two worked on a self-built weaving loom to fulfill screen orders that larger manufacturers were reluctant to take. From initial order to delivery, Freissle was heavily involved in the process of ScreenX's woven wire screens. His passion sparked questions about new possibilities in screen media. For example, if Freissle could somehow utilize polyurethane and effectively present it in the form of a tile, the nature of some screening applications could be made simpler, safer, and more efficient. Ultimately, Freissle's exploration led to the invention of the synthetic modular screen. Like any drastic change, the market initially resisted Freissle's offering. The product was more expensive, for one, but a key selling point was its longevity. In the end, the development led to less downtime, less cost of ownership for aggregate producers, and to a series of patents for Freissle. Seeing opportunity in America, Freissle brought his product to the United States, co-founding Polydeck in Spartanburg, South Carolina more than 40 years ago. But Freissle's journey started long before Polydeck was incorporated in 1978. The journey started with a determined young man whose entrepreneurial spirit and faith drove him to do great things. The journey also incorporated Freissle's concept of learning by doing, putting an innovative product on the global stage for aggregate producers to enjoy.
Welcome tonight to this wonderful event. I'd like to welcome all here tonight and celebrate this event. A special welcome to our members of our company, family and best friends, having supported me for many years. I stand here to thank our Lord Jesus for his blessing to having received a letter from Kevin Yannick, editor and chief of the Pit and Quarry, that after selecting a committee that has dedicated to accept our invention and invented me here to be present at this very historic and humbling event, that I will be receiving the Hall of Fame Award. During these long processes, over this last 60 years, when I was busy with screens, I was supported by many that helped me in the process to being successful. The first time I arrived in South Africa from Switzerland, I could hardly speak English, but my faith and my trust in the Lord has always been the strongest in my life. In all respects, I've prayed every day that I will never lose my faith. And in this respect, I must tell you what happens when you pray. I arrived in South Africa on the 19th of March, 1957. I wasn't 21 yet. I was 20. And with a trust in God, I knew I couldn't go wrong. Somewhere along the line, I thought, if I have to pray, I will do it now. And the very next day, the 19th of March, 1957, a young man comes walking on to me and said, "You have a tie on." And in South Africa, they don't wear ties. They said, "Are you a German?" I said, "Yes, because today is Sunday. I always wear a tie when I go to church." So he said, "Well, I'm also a German." He says, "And I've been here for 4 years." I said, "And what are you doing in the 4 years?" And now, listen, comes my story. The moment he told me that he was a wire weaver, the first time I heard this in my life, wire weaving. So here was God opening the door for me. So I said to him, "What is this wire weaving?" So I picked up a cigarette box on the floor and he threw a wire screen on the cigarette box. So what was my first question to him? I said, "Is it possible that you can start your own business in this country?" And with great enthusiasm he said, "I think we could do that." And before we went home, we didn't have a home, I stayed in a hotel. He found an apartment where we worked together, we lived together. And from then on, we decided to make a wire weaving loom because we had no money. How to make screens if you have no loom? So I was very good with my hands. And I said to him, "Listen, you bring the exact drawings that I can start making from a scrap material, I'll make a loom." 20 months later, we made our first wire screen. We sold it, and we took it to the customer, and we installed it. So this is when I realized what a difficulty it is, these wire screens. You have to carry these heavy wire screens around in the middle of the night while it's raining and cut the old screen out because it's got a little hole and carry a new screen and put it in, and the day is over, the night is over, and what have you done? You've stopped production for all the time that you were busy taking the screens out. So what was the actual result? The result is that because I met Mr. Rosenbusch, he told me that his whole family in Germany, his 7 brothers and sisters, they worked as wire weavers. And his father was the boss of the factory where they were doing the wire weaving. And so, his father, with his grandfather, it gave him almost 150 years of time that they were working with wire screens. The tradition. So, I was definitely going to save all the money that we could and started to carry on making the wire screens. For 20 years, I made wire screens together with Helmut Rosenbusch. And the fact that I met Mr. Rosenbusch on the 19th of March, now me as a God-fearing and Jesus-loving person, I realized that the 19th of March is the feast day of Saint Joseph. And who is Saint Joseph? He is one of the Holy Family. Joseph spoke to me and said, showed me, look, I will be on your side, whatever you start. And with that start of Joseph being the contactor between Helmut and myself and the screens, so I definitely decided that we are on the right track and making screens and being protected and guided by Saint Joseph. So this was the Holy Family. This was my very first contact and my very first thank you that God showed me that He is not letting me down by meeting that Rosenbusch. My second wonderful experience was that a couple of years later, I met the love of my life. And after being married, after 52 years, we have the most beautiful 4 girls and a very talented and successful son, Peter. Peter used to help me making the first polyurethane screens when he was 5 years old. So today, there's nobody can teach him anything about that. So with this in mind, I then had my third revelation. My third revelation with God was that I was driving through Johannesburg. I stopped on a stoplight, and what I see somebody next to me was a fellow that I recognized. He, 25 years before I recognized him here, he used to row with me in the rowing boat when we were 14, 15 years old. Now there God spoke to me again. I pulled him over. I said, what are you doing here? He says, I'm working for Hagenscheid. I said, what are they doing? Oh, he's doing this and that and the other thing. So I said, I'll tell you what, I take you now to the factory and I show what I do. He wasn't there for more than 2 hours when he said, you know, I would like to know more about this. And you know, this man, eventually I took him with me to America and showed him what the possibilities are in this wonderful country where everybody has an opportunity. And this is the opportunity that he took. And tonight, I have the great honor to thank you to Dieter Egler and his wife, that they both and their 2 children decided to come to America and start in a warehouse from nothing. We imported the first lot of machines, and in 1978, him and me went to Chicago to see some quarries, and believe it or not, while we were at the Pfister Hotel, we got a phone call while we were eating. Somebody wants to talk to us, wants to talk to him. And when he got up and went to the phone, and he came back, he was smiling. He said, what's happened? He says, the man that we visited yesterday, he wants to order his first screen from South Africa. So we manufactured this in South Africa. We transported it out. We had it installed. And it was our first success. So saying thank you to Dieter and to Utah for making this possible. If it wasn't for him starting this wonderful groundwork that he did for the first few years, I wouldn't be able to be here today. Because when Peter took over and became the president, I became the tea boy. But I was very happy because he had this wonderful talent, that he had the background, all the studies, and he made his master's degree, and he did more and more. And eventually, we had a very bad incident in South Africa. We both were attacked, and we were shot with 5 bullets, AK-47. This is when Peter decided he's not going to stay with me in South Africa. He took off and came to Dieter. And then Dieter was so kind to make him feel like at home. I'm still very grateful to you for that, Dieter. So thank you very much, Utah. You have helped Dieter with all the work of the office work and all that. And so that was the success that we had through him. Today is the 2nd February. And I don't know if anybody knows, but it spoke right to my heart when I was told to come here to speak on the 2nd of February. And you know what that is? This is the apparition of Lourdes, of our Mary, of Mother. So that circled now the family of our creators, that is Joseph, Mary, and Jesus. So now, having seen all this happening in front of my eyes, I was so convinced that I can carry on and try out whether I can manage to make a screen that is the only one that works so well without having it in the nighttime and cut it out and have all these troubles. And now I found a friend of mine in Germany. They were also making wire screens. And I said to him, you know, I've invented something. You can take all your inventory that you have on wire screens, you put them in your drawer. And you take it out of your drawer and you repair your screen within 10 minutes. You know, him and his engineers and his son, he came all the way 1,000 miles to visit me that night still. He couldn't believe that it's possible. And there is Peter. He managed to make this a big success from all the words that we have believed that God will help us. So now today is the 2nd of February. Now the 2nd of February, you may know, is the apparition of Mary at Lourdes. And when this happened to Bernadette, the Mary came and cured thousands and thousands of people up until today. So all my faith that I put in God and in trusting in Him, I can see the results on my family. Like I honor Peter so much because he stepped in my footsteps and he works a wonderful job, his way at work, a different way to make everybody feel at his job that he's working for eternal value. And with this eternal value, you won't believe it. We proved it over many years that it increased the efficiency by over 20% because the people found happiness and they in the factory and they can't wait to go to work. And so everybody that is here tonight, that is in from our factory, I thank you very much for supporting Peter and for listening to your spirit and being able to help what we are trying to achieve. And lastly, I would like to thank Peter for making us very proud parents and working hard in order to work on a foundation for what I always looked for, and that's a third generation. And I have the pleasure of telling you that Matthew, must stand up, Matthew. Matthew, he's our third generation and is just as excited in his religion as he is in his work and his family. And with this, I feel, at my age, I've achieved something that God hopefully will be happy with. I would like to thank you all for listening to me, and I wish you and your families God's richest blessings and a way forward with lots of success with the Hall of Fame. Thank you very much.